Daniel from Wallet of Satoshi. First thing I want to say is just a brief apology at the vague nature of the title of this topic. I can't even remember what it is, lessons learned or something. I wasn't planning on giving a talk today, so this is very much a last minute thing. I've got some scribbled notes here, but I thought you might find it interesting to find out what happens at a big Lightning service. We run some very large nodes. So just firstly a brief history, just a brief one, just so you know where we're coming from. We're all based in Australia. We started out building a bill payment service called Living Room of Satoshi. That's a very similar name, back in 2014. And our goal all the way along was to just get people using Bitcoin, find ways to use it. We've never taken any VC money, so we've had the freedom to build things the way we want to. That service is still running. After that, we developed a point-of-sale system in about 2017 or 18, in a very similar style to Neutronpay, where you could go to like a coffee shop and pay with Bitcoin. The problem was, and we rolled it out to maybe 300 merchants in Australia. All of Brisbane Airport was covered, so travellers could pay for their coffee with Bitcoin. The problem was, it used on-chain payments, of course, and so how do you do that? Well, you have to accept zero confirmations. There's all sorts of problems with that. How much risk do you take? And so when Lightning came along, we thought, this is it. This is the solution for retail payments. And it turned out to be that very thing. So Travel by Bit, that point-of-sale system, was just too early for the market, and I'm glad other people have taken it up now. But we thought there were no good wallets around, so we've got to build a wallet on Lightning, and we want to make it easy for people to use. So that's been our goal all the way along. We still call it the world's simplest Lightning wallet because we want to onboard people. The next billion people to use Bitcoin, I think, will have their first experience with Lightning. So that's our goal. Something interesting that's happening in Australia at the moment, over in a city called Perth, which is on the west coast of Australia. I think it's a very isolated city, the most isolated city in the world. But they've got a baseball team there called the Perth Heat, and they're very much involved with Lightning and Bitcoin. When they televise their games, they'll pop up a QR code on the screen, and the first person to scan it can steal sats. So basically when a runner steals a base, they pop up a QR code and give an opportunity for someone to steal some sats. So I thought it'd be fun today if we do the same thing. Nice. So I've got some QR codes ready. I've got 5 things to talk about, so there'll be 5 QR codes. And the first person to scan it will get the money. So be quick. The first point, I'll just give you a brief overview. Today we're going to talk about Lightning address, about Nostr, about routing fees, about success rates, and then a little bit more about Lightning routing, which Koji referred to yesterday. So, here comes the first QR code. Get your wallet out. I hope you all have a wallet of Satoshi. If you don't, download it. And if you grab it, just call out and let us know.
Me on that?
So, I think it helps if you're up the front for this. You got it. Well done. Congratulations. All right, this is a good segue into the first point because this QR code uses LNURL, or Lightning address. And if you open up your wallet of Satoshi, you'll notice if you have a recent version of it, that we made a change. And if you click receive, the first thing you see now is a QR code that's not actually anything to do with the Lightning protocol. It's a Lightning address. And we had some explanations about LNURL yesterday and Lightning address, which were really good. But we decided to make that the default. So I thought it might be interesting to find out why we did that. There's a few benefits and downsides of that. The benefits are, of course, that it's a human-readable code. It just looks like an email address. It's less intimidating for new people. Instead of seeing this big long string of random-looking letters, they see something that they're familiar with. The other big benefit of LNURL, of course, is that it's a static code, so it doesn't change. You can print it out and it'll still work, whereas with a Lightning invoice, you really need to generate a new one each time. And that's what we were doing originally in the previous version of the wallet, but with the static code, it just makes a lot more sense to people who aren't familiar with Lightning or Bitcoin. It's easier for them to use. I guess the other benefit from a technical standpoint is that it's portable. When I think about LNURL, I think of it as a layer 3, basically. So Bitcoin is the first layer. We've got Lightning now, which is the second layer, which is that beautiful thing that enables retail payments using real Bitcoin. But then LNURL is another layer on top of that. And I guess basically it enables us to decide how we're going to use that code. So if we want to run multiple nodes in the second layer, then if someone uses an LN address and scans it, we can decide which of our nodes we want it to point to. So it helps with redundancy, and if we want to take a node down or bring one up, we don't have to use the same node all the time. So there's a few benefits of having that third layer there. But on the other hand, there's a lot of downsides to it. And when the idea was first proposed, I was probably one of the most vocal critics of the idea, because I just don't believe that the web is the right place for payments to be. You see, there was, in the HTTP status codes when they were first developed, there was one called 402, payment required, and it was never implemented. And people thought, one day something will solve this. And when Bitcoin came along, they thought, Bitcoin is what's going to solve it. And then Lightning's going to solve it. But I think web is the wrong place to put payments for good reasons. Mostly because the web has some critical flaws that I think exist, and particularly with the DNS system. So DNS is this centralized system of basically 12 computers around the world that map domain names to IP addresses. It's been running all right, and it works, but it feels to me like the Achilles heel of the internet. Like it could be attacked, there could be a bug with it, and if something goes wrong on it one day, and if we've moved our entire Lightning infrastructure onto it, and we're sending real money through it, that's going to be a huge problem if something does go wrong. So it worries me. I mean, it works for now, and we are using it as our default payment layer, but I don't think it's the end game for Lightning. I think that eventually those ideas and those benefits that Lightning Address brings can be brought down from that third layer back into that second layer. And some of the clever technical people I've talked to agree with that. So that's what we're looking forward to make those payments possible just between Lightning nodes without having to involve the web at all. So that's the Lightning address. Now our second topic is Nostra, or Nostra. I don't really know how you say it. Who here has used Nostra? Tried it out? Oh, a lot of you. Yeah, it's really an exciting thing, isn't it? Because people have been trying to make a decentralized social media for a long time, and this is the first one that's really kind of caught on. It seems to work. We don't know if it's going to scale or if it's going to be successful, but it's working for now. And because it's so open, we're able to integrate Lightning into it very easily. One client in particular, Damus, the developer there, was very interested in Lightning. He wrote some proposals to integrate these things called zaps. So basically, instead of, and it works very similar to Twitter, but if you see a post, instead of liking it, there's a little button next to it called Zap, and it'll generate a Lightning invoice, and you can pay it, and you can instantly send that person a little bit of Lightning. And it works really well. And when you use it, it feels right. It feels like this is how social media should be. So, I mean, Twitter has tried those sort of ideas, adding tipping in, but it just doesn't have that decentralized nature. You have to use a certain app. It doesn't work all around the world, whereas on a decentralized social network and a decentralized payment system, anybody can connect to it. Our wallet can implement it, any other wallet can implement it, and it's really available to every country in the world. So that's exciting to us. People have been really hitting it hard too. They've organized these stress tests where everyone zaps as hard as they can for half an hour, and we've seen peaks of probably 5,000 or 10,000. Just some other stats I got from our devs before I came up. The average size of zaps on Nostra through our service at the moment is 1,018 sats. So that's about 30 US cents, I think. So you can see it's just little tips that people give each other. But the median size is 21 sats. So I think that's a very common number that people like to send, 21. But that's a tiny amount. That's like less than a cent. So you can see the new things that Nostr and Lightning sort of enable in social media. So we're really watching that keenly. It's an exciting thing to us. And yeah, it's something that feels natural to us too. Okay, let's move on to routing fees. Who got the second one, by the way? Yes, well done. Okay, is someone going to grab this one? I'm not sure how many sats was in it. 10,000. Well, that's not bad. Oh, okay, you're zapping it out to people. Awesome. Okay. All right, now let's talk about routing fees, because we run a very large node. You can easily find it if you want to find it. We run a number of other smaller nodes. Some of them are publicly well known, and some of them aren't. That's one of the things I love about Lightning Network too. It can be as private as you want it to be. Like, we have these nodes that really nobody knows about. Now, some stats about our service, particularly when it comes to routing. So we're not talking about our own customers' payments, but the payments we route from other people across the network. Now, we're doing about 5,000 to 15,000 transactions per day in routing. So other people routing payments through our nodes. And it has spiked up to something like 50,000 transactions per day. So that's a large number, and you might think, Wallet of Satoshi must be making a killing on fees. That's their business model. Well, actually we're not. We do make some in fees, but when we looked at the figures, we actually spend more on rebalancing our channels than we make on routing fees. Now, I don't want to get you disheartened about that, because it is possible to run a Lightning node and run it profitably and make money from routing fees. I guess the difference with our nodes is our purpose. We're not trying to do that. The purpose of our nodes is to support our customers, to make sure every payment someone makes with our wallet is as reliable as possible. So we don't go after optimizing our nodes, our fee structures, to make routing fees. But the thing is, if you want to do that, you can, and we encourage it, because if you're making routing fees from one of our nodes, from routing payments through us, then that's helping us too. It's helping our service become more reliable, and we're happy to pay you the fees to do that. And I know a lot of people have done that. I can see people on the network configuring nodes specifically to help us route payments, and they get the fees from that. So that's really worthwhile. Yeah, so don't be discouraged. I think you can make money from routing, and it does really help support the network too. Number 4. Who got number 3? Anybody? Yes, well done. Number 4. Okay, this one, still trying to grab it? No? You got it? Well done. Success rates on the Lightning network. So we have access to a lot of data for this, because we've been running for maybe 4 years now, and we've seen generally across the network how things have been going. And basically, I guess overall we can say that things have been rapidly improving. In the beginning, the first few years, we would get quite a lot of failed payments. We just couldn't find routes. There wasn't enough liquidity around. But I think it's just a combination of the network growing, people getting more sophisticated with the way they run their nodes, the pathfinding improving in the node implementations. All those things have combined so that now things that just seem flawless, like it always seems to work. We tried to look at some data to find out exactly what the numbers are, so it's not just anecdotal, but it's very difficult. And I'll tell you why, because Lightning enables all these new business cases, and some of these business cases involve payments failing deliberately or being queued deliberately. So people will set up escrow services, for example. So a Lightning payment will happen, but it will be held. It won't be completed until something else happens, like some non-KYC Bitcoin is transferred. And it will even fail. They'll fail it deliberately. So we see failures and queued payments and all sorts of things. It's hard to tell, but anecdotally, we think it's really reliable now. It's like a real payment system. We worked on payment systems in the past, and fiat ones, unfortunately, MasterCard and those sort of things. And I think it's as good as those systems now. It really is. Okay, so that was success rates. Number 4, did someone grab number 4? Oh, yeah, you did already. This is the last one, so get in if you haven't got one. Okay, now a bit more about routing generally. Now, when I think about our Lightning node infrastructure, I think about an abacus, and this is, I think, the best analogy when it comes to trying to understand how channels work. And not one of those fancy abacuses, just a kid's one. You know, you have the rods with the little beads on them. On one side is our node, and on the other side is the rest of the network. And on our biggest node, we will have thousands of these rods. We'll have thousands of channels. And payments are going back and forth all the time and adjusting the size of the channels constantly. And what we found over the years, though, with our service was that gradually a lot of the beads would come over to our side, to our node. And that's a problem because then we can't receive more incoming payments. So we've got to fix it. We've got to rebalance it somehow. And we've tried every strategy under the sun to do that because we run a big node and it happens a lot. So some of the things we've tried, well, we noticed a lot of payments are coming from and going to large exchanges now, which is really good. Places like Bitfinex, OKX. So we would set up accounts with them and just manually swap with them, withdraw Bitcoin from them or send them Bitcoin and then withdraw through Lightning. We tried paid swap services, which were helpful sometimes. We tried just closing channels when they got too big. Sometimes there's just nothing else you can do. We tried rebalancing our own channels, like making a circular route and making one channel bigger, the other channel smaller. We set up something called our channel chief, which is a little bit of software that has a look at the channels and tries to dynamically adjust the fees to just adjust the incentives of which way payments are flowing. And all those things helped, but it depends a lot on the status of the network and what's happening on your particular node. But the biggest change we made recently was just changing the fee incentives for our own customers. So our fees were a bit lopsided before. We charge a fee for going from Bitcoin back to Lightning and Lightning to Bitcoin. But the fee only really happened one way. And so we ended up as a sink. We ended up accepting a lot of Bitcoin. So we adjust that to be equal, and it's a lot more easy to manage now. So that's a little bit about routing, a little about a wallet of Satoshi, the world's simplest Lightning wallet. As I say, we want to onboard the next billion people to Bitcoin, and we think that's going to happen through Lightning, and we want it to be seamless and magical. Thank you.
That was great. That was great. And thank you very much for coming last minute. We literally slotted him in. I sent him an email overnight for him to fill this spot. So thank you so much for filling in last minute and so much phenomenal knowledge to share with everybody. Yeah, let's open up the room for Q&A because I'm sure there's a lot of questions. So let's fire away.
Yeah, please ask questions. I've got a bunch of swag here, so anyone who asks a question will get a t-shirt. Even if you just want to say hello, I'll give you a t-shirt.
For last minute, there's a lot of gifts being given. They're giving out Bitcoin and swag, so I don't know. Maybe this was prepared.
Yeah, very creative. I was very engaged with yeah. So I am aspiring to run a professional Lightning node. So I had an Umbrel node for a couple of months, 18 months, and I just had 5 channels, and I didn't really do much because I wasn't competent. But now I want to actually have professional hardware and run it up all the time and just have this done as a future job, right? That will be something that I might do a few years down the line, right? So what is the intermediate or maybe end game for Lightning Network from a professional point of view? Is this just the new banking layer and will it be winner take all? Or can anybody who puts in the time become a professional Lightning node?
That's a good question. And I think the way I see it now is that the Lightning Network is for everybody. Like when I worked in the banking system, it was closed. Like you have to have a license from the government to even touch the system. But now anybody can join the system. And what we're starting to see is that all sorts of people and groups and organizations are joining it. So there's custodial wallets like us, there's exchanges, there's individual node runners, just individuals who want to try it out. And I think that that's what's going to happen with the Lightning Network. There will be banks on there that use it, there'll be big organizations that use it, there'll be small node runners. But I think the opportunity for node runners is to facilitate transactions for the larger organizations like us. We don't have the time to look at it, and you can easily help out and make money by doing that.
Question in the back. Oh, you got Adam.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So Wallet Satoshi is currently the largest custodial Lightning wallet.
Is it the largest?
Is it the largest?
I don't know. It'd be one of the largest, I think.
So do you have any plans like to go to like a federated multi-sig or like Fedimin kind of style service? Just to because there might be like regulatory pressure coming on that, right?
Yeah, that's an interesting idea. We don't have any concrete plans, but what we've noticed with merchants particularly, we're still in that intermediate stage where they don't know, or not really comfortable with Bitcoin. They want to use stable coins. So we're tossing up the idea of whether we do that with something like Taro when it comes out. But really at the moment, we just want to build the best Lightning wallet and make it as easy as possible for people to understand. Let's see if I can get this to you.
Yep, we got a question right here.
Yeah, so I've been a big user for the past few years, doing a lot of free Sats giveaways.
Nice.
Global Bitcoin Fest. So we noticed, I think 70% of all the recipients use Wallet of Satoshi-ish, and we do about, I don't know, sometimes 100 giveaways in one session. And but at the same time, it's interesting to see that it doesn't look like you've done a lot of marketing. It just seems completely organic. Are you thinking of taking a more proactive approach as well with your marketing, or are you just going to continue letting the product do the job?
That's a good observation, and you're exactly right. We don't do a lot of marketing. I guess our whole philosophy is just to build things properly, slowly and steadily, and gradually grow it. We're very wary of introducing new features and advertising them, just because we don't want people to have a bad experience with Bitcoin, because a lot of our customers, it's the very first time they've ever done anything with it. So it's got to work. It's got to work perfectly. So yeah, I guess we're very cautious, and we know the network is still young as well, the whole Lightning network. So yeah, there are our considerations. I'll get this to you.
Awesome. I want to ask a quick follow-up question.
Sure.
You have Living Room of Satoshi, which is a really cool service to pay bills. Mm-hmm. Have you seen any change in the dynamics with the adoption of Lightning?
Lightning payments have definitely grown. I think we do more Lightning than Bitcoin now, which is interesting because the average size of payments on that service is over 1,000 Australian dollars. So people are doing large payments on Lightning 2 now, which wasn't possible at all before. Like, you remember a couple of years ago, you tried to do a big payment. There was just no way. But now it can support very large payments, yeah.
Got a question in the back row over there? Yep.
My question is that, are you seeing a heavy concentration of users in any particular countries in Asia Pacific? And especially, what about Vietnam?
In Asia Pacific, do you guys have any data? I should have looked at it. No, I don't know, but I know that it's being used all over the world. I guess it probably would match that graph that we saw yesterday where Thailand was at the top with 20% and a lot of Southeast Asian countries, but I don't know for sure. But we are, we do like publishing data, so just keep an eye on our website. We might put something out.
Awesome. Roland, a question over here.
Do you have any ideas on human-readable names without DNS? And does Nostra have anything to do with this?
I don't have any ideas about that. I'm hoping someone can come up with a good idea. But I like the idea of a human-readable. The fact that it looks like an email address is a little bit confusing as well. Maybe we can do better than that. But there's a lot of clever people in this very room, so hopefully I get someone thinking about it.
Great. And then we'll have one more question here from the front row. If you can run the mic up, and actually I have a follow-up question as well. Or while you're running it up, why don't I ask this? Is you mentioned how you weren't really fond of, like I said, the payments going to the web layer and bringing it back down to layer 2, and that you guys are kind of maybe you've been thinking about some ideas. And could you share any of those initial ideas, or have you and other people kind of spun up some initial kind of thoughts on what that could look like? Yeah.
Well, there's a proposal called Bolt 12, which is partially implemented, and it solves some of those problems. It gives you the static invoice, but it doesn't solve all of the problems, so it's not a direct replacement for Lightning address. I think maybe that in combination with some kind of human-readable format, and yeah, I don't see why it's not possible on the Lightning layer, so I'm hoping it'll come back down one day.
Okay. Cool. And then one final question.
Thanks very much for this great talk. My question is about the software stack and hardware stack you're using. If you could more into details there, and especially like if you have to store that many like revocation transactions and all that stuff, and how. And maybe about the high availability. So, do you, when you like have to upgrade your node, like how do you make sure that the downtime is like as minimal as possible?
Yeah, definitely the hardware requirements go up rapidly with a service like ours. Usually, we mostly run LND, and those guys have just been making huge performance improvements over the years, which have really been beneficial to us. But we mostly find when it's a long-lived large channel, we get those problems where the history just doesn't clear and disk space builds up. So we do have to manage it a little bit. I guess at the moment it's just a matter of throwing more hardware at it until the software improvements come.
Awesome. All right, we'll give a big round of applause, guys.
Thank you.